Welcome, people of the internet. This is Geek Rating Review, where we talk about everything geek culture and geek related. My name is Jean-Marc, and I talk.
My name's Nick. We talk about food, too. I was born in one, Jean-Marc, because I'm his littlest brother, David.
Alright, y'all get y'all alcohol out.
Yeah, wine.
New alcohol thing we're doing.
So what you wearing?
I'm same Captain Morgan's. I didn't finish it off. Same private stock.
That's not what you're wearing.
Oh,
I said wearing.
I'm wearing my game rating review shirt.
I'm wearing a Superman shirt.
Oh, David, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing a shirt from Family Adventure Day that I volunteered at not too long ago.
David, you don't even
Which
have
activity
kids.
were you volunteering at?
I was at Hershey's and I got to help kids decorate cookies with icing.
David, you're so wholesome, it hurts me.
I know, right?
It hurts
All right,
me.
let's drink. Let's drink to David being wholesome. Woo!
Yeah, I'm wholesome.
So wholesome.
Sweet alcohol.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
What do you mean, what are we talking about?
Oh, where did I stop?
You are going to go get us through Final Fantasy 10 through whatever. Because we stopped at Final Fantasy 9 last time. So we got through all the old classic.
What a
those.
good stopping point.
Yeah, it was a
We
very
had
good
to
stopping
stop
point.
to get our alcohol, and then we just started right back up.
And to be
No
qu-
breaks in time at all.
yes, and to be quite honest, it is a downward hill spiral from here.
I will say there are some bright spots in there.
Yes.
Yes. Final Fantasy X. 10 is not a bad game. 10 is a good game if you can get past some of the trappings that it has, like voice acting. By voice acting, I mean bad voice acting.
Nick, where can you play Final Fantasy X on? Because you did that. You said where we could find.
You could play Final Fantasy X on the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch.
And PSP, right?
And PSP, Vita.
Vita.
Right.
Yeah.
I have the Vita copy in my nightstand, actually, somewhere.
Wow.
It's in there. I have the Vita copy. I have every copy that I just rammed off.
I don't have the Switch one, and I traded my PS3 one for the PS4 one.
I have all of them. I don't know why. That's a dumb thing to do. Don't be me.
I have the PS3. Me and David, I guess, had the PS2 one together.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
still in the house somewhere.
I had the PS3 one and beat it on there, and then I got the PS4. No, I think I only have the PS3 one. Yeah. I think I got it again.
I think 10 is a good game to jump into. If, like, a lot of people that have never played the series, it's not a bad game to jump into.
No.
It has some cringy stuff. Some of the dungeons, like the sphere dungeons at the Summoner's Temples, those are inexcusably bad.
I like them.
Oh, when it's just you as Titus, and it is Titus, not Titus.
Oh.
For the purists out there.
The stupidest name.
Yep, he has a dumb name.
I wish he would have been called Jecht. That's a cool name.
I wish he would just die right away.
His name isn't even the worst in the game. That would go to Waka.
Waka.
Waka, waka, waka.
He has the most fun name.
Waka is the best character in the game with the best voice acting because it's Jake the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no way. Yeah, you're right. Huh.
Yeah, he's a nothing character. He has very little development.
Yeah, his arc kind of ends when you leave the first area.
I disagree.
No.
I disagree.
When you do
His arc.
Yeah.
His arc is there because of, like, no spoilers, but, like, his
We have spoilers. What? I thought.
I don't think we need to spoil 10 because it's been re-released so soon.
Okay.
People can go and play it. It's cheap.
Yeah, it's easier to get than most of the other games.
Yeah. I mean, some of those games we talked about last time are, like, still $60 and $70.
Yeah.
If you want to play them legit.
Yeah, original. Yeah.
It has my favorite non-traditional level up system, though. The sphere system is really cool.
That's something I wanted to talk about. Not in depth, but at length. I think the sphere system is one of the best things that Final Fantasy has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And a game that I've been playing recently. I've told y'all about it. Earthlock basically has a sphere grid system, and it's so clean and it's so fun to do. I wish more games would do that.
Yeah.
It's a really neat system to play around with. And it doesn't turn all the characters into one character.
No.
It's very individualized.
Well, what happened with me is I played 9, I loved 9, and then when we jumped to 10 with all the hype, the first thing that happened is we got like the disc with like the first 5-10 minutes of the game on it or something, a demo disc. Yeah. And then you could play the beginning, and you got to fight those first little things. And I was so hyped for the game. And then whenever it got to the sphere system, I hated it. I was like, this isn't Final Fantasy, because it's such a departure from every way that they've leveled up in the past. So the first time I played it, I hated it. But by the end of that game, I thought it was the most fun, revolutionary thing ever.
It gave gameplay to leveling up.
Yes.
You know, there was a strategy to leveling up that wasn't there before.
Right.
Especially without having a job system.
Yes. And
so it's a very cool thing to do.
And grinding meant more if you knew where you were going to.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, great.
And you didn't have a limit. You didn't have like, oh, well, I hit 100 and it's exponentially harder every level to level up.
It was also the first game where you can hit more than 9999. And when that first happened in the game, I was like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yes.
When you're crushing bosses with like 5 9s and it's like, this is different, you know?
You want to talk about downsides? Dodging 200 lightning bolts.
I never got any of the legendary weapons in that game because they made them not fun to get.
I got all but that one.
They weren't fun to get.
I was gonna say that I like the fact that they have celestial weapons and that it's a side thing that you can do.
Yeah, I like that.
Not necessarily that it's like some of them are more difficult than others. I think getting the Blitzball one is my favorite, but we're not talking about that awesome thing we're going to talk about for hours yet. But I liked because it's the same thing that we liked about Zelda on 64. You can get the big Goron sword. You don't need it, but you can go get it, and I kind of like that about it. That it was just something different that you could do.
No doubt. It wasn't super weapons locked behind super bosses.
Yes.
Which is something that most games would do.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything was task oriented in that game. And if you didn't want to do it, if you didn't want to put 300, 400 hours into that game, you didn't have to.
Yeah.
You could have it about 80% complete in like 80 to 90 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
Oh, and the summons in that game were my favorite summons out of any. Me personally, how personal they were.
You know what's funny? Yeah. I was thinking about, I like the mechanics behind the strongest summon, but to me personally, there's so many cool summons, and that one is the lamest out of all of them. I do not like the final summon.
With Tiamat or whatever?
No, the 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the spoilery. The extra thing you can get. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't mind it.
Well, there's some, and I think in the remaster, or it might just be in the Switch version, they have some of the, like every summon has an alternate version.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Which is pretty neat.
That's cool.
I'm probably never going to play that version, but.
No.
Because I've beaten it. I beat it on PS2 when it came out in 2001, I think. When it came out, 2001. Because 9 and 10 came out within 6 or 7 months of each other.
Really?
Yeah, the PS2 was already out whenever 9 came out.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Huh. I'm shocked that they didn't upport 9 to 2
they weren't
to
that,
PS2.
And then I beat it again on PS3, I think. I played a little bit on the Vita, but I haven't installed it on the PS4. But I have the big, like, collectors with the art books and stuff.
Ooh.
Those versions are pretty neat.
Well, now that we're talking about it,
it's a recommend. I recommend 10. Like, it's not one that anybody could skip. It's become a meme because of the laughing scene.
Yeah.
But if you can move past, that's what, 4 hours into the game, 5 hours into the game. The rest of the game, it's got heart. It moves past that.
Yeah, it's just he does more than that. That's cringy.
Yeah,
There's just so many scenes that are like.
That's one of the first, like the first part. The part of the problem is that it's the first generation of console voice acting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But why couldn't Jack be the guy and not Titus, whatever?
Jack had to be the.
I know, but he's so much cooler.
He's not cool. He's a absentee father.
Well.
No.
Well, so is Rick from Rick and Morty. I mean. But like that backstory that they show, I wish they would have made a video game out of that.
Yeah,
I would have loved that.
We got a prequel.
Oh, we're not talking about
that one. We're not talking about that one.
We're not talking about it.
So now that we're talking about it, I think Final Fantasy X is my most played Final Fantasy. And I now think that it's my favorite, and that it has overtaken 9 as my favorite Final Fantasy game. Yeah,
I really need you to hunker down and play 6, man.
No, I need to get the Super Nintendo Mini or whatever classic.
He doesn't like A Link to the Past. Will he like?
Well, I like turn-based RPGs, and
the dialogue and the story in 6 is where that game shines.
Yeah.
You know, that game tells a great story. Link to the Past doesn't tell a great story. It's just a fun game.
Yeah, the mechanics are fun.
I'm talking more about the generational jump back to old stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that you have that problem. I think if a game has a compelling narrative from the jump, which Final Fantasy VI does, then you're in.
Yeah.
If with the jump, then you're good.
Yeah. So
regardless of the aesthetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will play that one, but we're talking about 10, and let's get to the best part of it, Blitzball. By far, my favorite.
So fun.
So fun.
One of my most played mini games of any game ever, probably.
Mini game? You mean sport? My favorite sport I've played in any game.
I would argue that maybe next to Rocket League, that's my most played sports game is Blitzball.
They even talked about doing a separate Final Fantasy game that was just Blitzball at the time.
Yeah,
that would have been fun if you wouldn't have had to move and then stop and then choose your move. If it would have been a more action-oriented game, I think I would have liked it more. I don't know. I didn't like Blitzball.
But also,
I like the RPG element.
Yeah, I like that you could recruit as well. I thought that was so fun and different.
But you could recruit in NCAA football 2006.
Yeah, but you couldn't walk up to a player and say, "Hey, I want you." Football. That's what you could do. You could walk up to somebody and be like, "I want," or somebody could leave another team. I know that's in other sports games, but you can yoink them if they get off of it. But I like that you could actually physically see and interact with other players. Or players or people that just have good stats.
I think
it's
neat and it's neat and it's well fleshed out, but it's just not for me.
But
I didn't like it.
But I'm glad that it tied to a celestial weapon. Spoilers, kind of. But I'm glad that it forced me to do it because I don't think I would have tried it otherwise. The whole experience was fun.
Weapon is a Blitzball. To think that Blitzball would have something to do with something.
Yeah.
But why would the gods create a Blitzball?
It was a judgment sphere.
That's what I don't understand.
What I was expecting from the game, whenever just the preview was out and you didn't know much about it, is I thought that you'd be playing with a celebrity through the whole game. And that you're constantly trying to save the world and but also trying to get fans off of your back or something.
Yeah.
It was my most hyped Final Fantasy, and I guess it ended up being my favorite for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, I think 10 was when they were they really wanted players to engage more in their systems, and even the battle system is more engaging.
Yeah.
With being able to change out characters on the fly.
Yes, I wish every game did that. I wish every...
It's a more engaging battle system. It's a more engaging level up system. It's a more engaging side quest system, even though the game gets touted for being linear, but it's not that linear.
It's not that.
It just doesn't have an open world mechanic,
Yeah, right. There's no over map. You can't get in a boat and,
Well, they couldn't render it because they had so many damn cutscenes on one
Oh, that's
disc.
true. Yeah. And I didn't like the girl with the blonde hair, who I don't remember her name.
Riku.
I hate Riku.
Riku.
She's my least favorite character in the whole
Mine
game.
is Lulu.
But
I know
Riku
for a
had-
fact that's not your least
Riku
favorite
had-
character.
Riku had grenades and Lulu had cleavage.
I know who your least favorite character is because we are at complete odds with this character.
What do you like about her?
No, you hate Kamari. Jamal.
Me?
Yes, you hate
I like
Kamari.
Kamari.
I will never use Kamari ever, and I'll use Riku more than Kamari because but Kamari is I like him as a character. I don't like him as someone to fight with.
Every time you talk about him, you make fun of the way he talks.
Oh, Kamari.
Every single time you talk about
Hey, let's go to Thor together. I'm Kumari. Hey, I'm
Okay.
a strong person. I go boom boom now. What are you talking about?
I'm the Final Fantasy apologist, and I'll say it once again, first generation of console voice acting. Riku has grenades.
I didn't
Throw
like it.
grenades.
You had to buy all of her stuff to use. I didn't like that.
And you can stack up on it. That's cool. That's fine.
I didn't like Kumari's. I don't like when you have to steal abilities. I didn't like that in any Final Fantasy.
That, though.
I
'Cause it's
Yeah, that's
like a-
that's Blue Mage stuff.
yeah, I don't like that stuff.
Do we want to talk about Final Fantasy 11?
I know nothing of this game.
I bought a hard drive and made my dad run an Ethernet line to my bedroom
Mhm.
for this game. I put between 8 and 10,000 hours into it.
Jeez.
Um,
Wow.
That's what I heard.
I have all the expansions of the PS2 version.
Mhm.
I never want to play another MMO again. It's the reason I don't play MMOs, because it felt like work.
Oh.
It was nice. It was fun. You had a lot of different kinds of character styles and stuff, but there was very little narrative. It was all about questing and farming and,
Farming and testing.
Yeah, so I cannot talk about it. I liked it when I played it, and then when I finally was like, I'm done with this stupid game, it was like 2008, 2007 maybe, and that game launched in 03.
Oh wow.
I will say, I was the most disappointed in being excited to have another Final Fantasy to realize it wasn't an actual Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
It was a good MMO. If you can think of a Final Fantasy MMO, it is that. It is a good version of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not for me. It's put a bad taste in my mouth for MMOs in general.
I
Not
played.
because it was bad, but because I probably was addicted to it.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Most people that played it, they got immediately addicted to it, and that was it. You know?
And it's designed like that. It's certainly designed to do that
Yeah, like WoW or whatever.
because of daily bonuses and all those other things that you have to put 8, 9, 10 hours a day into it.
Mm,
Wow.
And there were weekends when I would put 30 hours into it.
Wow.
gee.
Yeah.
Is there 30 hours in a weekend of life?
It's 48 hours in a weekend, buddy.
Yeah. When there's a will and no life,
Yeah.
there is a way. I've certainly done that with Halo, so I can't. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, I want to say I was a junior when it came out because I was living in Crowley. I
then
took a
there's
year off from Midland.
0% to do in Crowley,
Yeah.
other than drugs.
No, I had plenty of those.
Yeah.
And eat food, I guess. Other
I
than
had plenty of those. Let's move on to 12. Jamark, I know you never played it.
Oh, I might be wait till you're done to ask you that question, but
I played the first 5 hours, and
Not enough.
I was done after that. I didn't want to keep playing it.
That game takes about 8 hours to get going.
That's a lot.
But when it gets
Oh.
going, it is a lot to ask, but that game is pretty well over 100 hours.
Jeez.
At the time, it was the longest Final Fantasy I'd played.
Wow.
And it's the most different Final Fantasy I've played to that point. Once you get past this one particular area, I can never remember the name of it. It's like the Y Drying Godzilla Sand Sea. Once you get past that point, that game opens up and it is a blast.
Now,
You get various beast hunts, you get side quests. That game opens up and lets you take it at your own pace. And the combat style is what you make of it. You can play that game completely turn-based, or you can fiddle with the gambit system, slow it down if you want to, and let it be a little more hand-holdy. But there's a balance between those two things. That's my wife's favorite Final Fantasy game.
wow.
It's also the first one she ever played. And she also, it took her about 8 hours to get into it. And then once, like I said, the game opens up, it is great. It is one of my top 5 Final Fantasy games ever.
I might have to play the redo. Not the Switch.
The redo,
Expensive.
it is very expensive. The remake does something in the original version, the original North American version. You can give everybody everything. There's called a license board, where you earn license points in battle, and that's how you unlock the ability to use different weapons that you find, different armor, different accessories and stuff. And you can kind of like funnel everybody into one version, to where everybody's swinging battle axes and carrying knight shields and wearing the best armor, which makes it easier. In the remaster, they get rid of that altogether, so you're kind of locked down into 2 job classes.
Wow.
Okay.
So you pick. You like, this is going to be my black mage / warrior. This will be my thief / red mage. It's a more focused game. It's a more difficult game, but they've changed it for the better. Having you locked into those choices makes it better. It makes the experience worth having.
Okay. The negative I heard about 12 was that the leveling up system was dumb.
No, the license system was dumb. People thought the license system was dumb. You
Okay.
level up just like anybody else. Like any other game. You gain experience and your health points go up, your magic points go up, and all that stuff.
But
12.
I thought you had a grid like on Final Fantasy X.
That's only to use items and to unlock higher level magics.
Okay.
And you can look up a picture of it, of the original version,
Yeah, I remember
and you'll
it.
see like there's blocks for magic. And the higher up you go, you'll see white mage magic level 3, white mage magic level 5.
Which the original Final Fantasy did that too, but it just unlocked automatically as you go.
Right.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
And this way it's tied in with, like, you're moving around the world, you're getting higher level weapons, items, armor, stuff like that. And then like, oh, I have this staff, I can't use it yet, so I'm going to start allocating my license points to wiggle myself over to that side of the board. And as you're going, it's unlocking HP bonuses, it's unlocking speed bonuses, it's unlocking other bonuses along the way,
Yes.
all while you're still leveling up
Yes.
in battle with regular XP and stuff. It's a deep system that has, I don't have a flaw in it.
Really?
I mean, I think the original is flawed because you can make everybody the same,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's definitely fixed in the new one.
So do you think getting the remake that's out now is worth getting?
I think getting the PS4 version is worth getting
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
it's
could
like
pick it up for 20
$20.
bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a Japanese developer sale going on the PlayStation Network, like right now, so it's probably part of that sale.
Ooh. I might pick that up.
I bought Psychonauts and Away yesterday. Like, I didn't even know Away was a Japanese developed game.
So it's a recommend for you, Nick.
I would put Final Fantasy 12, either version, in my top 5 favorite Final Fantasy games of all time.
And David,
Because
what was,
it
go
also
ahead.
tells a great story.
Well, you skipped the fact that turned me off was that more so than I think Tidus, I could not stand Vaughn's character.
Vaughn and Pinello are, according to the story of the development of this game, Vaughn was a late addition to the story. This is not a Hironobu Sakaguchi game. The creator of Final Fantasy had nothing to do with this game. He had already left Square Enix to create Mistwalker Studios.
Yeah.
This is the guys behind the Ivalice games, like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yes. Oh yeah,
So
that's
why you
yeah.
see You see a lot of the same character styles, and you see a lot of the names that are similar to Tactics. It's a paradigm shift in narrative standpoint because it's not as personal of a story.
Yeah.
Originally, Bosch was supposed to be the main character of the game, which if you play it now, you take that mindset and you play it as Bosch is the main character and Vaughn is just this yappy little dog chasing everybody. It's a better story.
Wow.
That's how I play it.
Wow.
I keep Bosch in my party as much as I can. He's a strong fighter, but he's just a better and more compelling character than Vaughn and Pinello.
Okay.
And if I have to recommend the PS4 version because if you play the PS2 version, there is so much voice acting in that game. It's good voice acting, but the audio compression is awful. They sound terrible.
Huh.
So because they compress it so hard to fit it onto one disc.
Yeah.
Even the music sounds bad. But it's got really good music. So play the Zodiac Age edition on PS4. Well worth it. And you can fast forward the gameplay. So when you want to grind, you can just fast forward it and grind and grind and grind. Sure does.
Wait, on the new version?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
What are you looking for?
Oh, I found it. The next game that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the 360 version?
Oh, I not only got the 360 version of this, I also got this one. And I got this one. Nick, why don't you start us off on this one?
The 360 version, how many discs is in there? 4?
Let's count them. Nick, say what we're talking about. Let's start it.
Final Fantasy 13.
1.
Oh, boy.
2.
Oh,
only
man.
3. Only 3. Final Fantasy
Only
13
3.
has 3 discs on the Xbox 360.
On the grossly underpowered 360. Okay. I had some serious hype for this game.
Me too.
Some
Me as
serious
well.
hype. I had pre-ordered it. Had all says you. Irritating man.
Oh.
I had pre-ordered it.
Mhm.
I got off of work early, I think, that day. Ran to GameStop, picked it up, brought it home, installed it, started playing it. I'm like, yeah, finally.
Mhm.
Because it was a pretty decent wait for 13.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever I finally got into some combat, I was like, okay, the combat's fun. I like the combat.
Yep.
And then I think day one, I played it for like 6 straight hours.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 6 straight hours of halls.
Mhm.
And then I would be separated from the main story that I thought was the main story and thrown into a different story
Mhm.
with more hallways, with 2 people that like don't even know how to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And then they split off into another group. So basically there's like 3 different groups. And I'm like, okay, this story is disjointed. I'm cool with that. It'll all come together. 90 hours later of decent combat and more hallways, the story made no sense.
No sense.
I
mean, I tried reading up on it, and it still made 0 sense.
60, 70 hours in, they're introducing concepts that haven't even been hinted at any point in the story.
Yep.
I'd say about 100 hours in, I get put on Cocoon.
Yeah.
Which was the whole planet point that, okay, once we get to Cocoon, that's when the game finally opened up. 100 hours in, I land on Cocoon, and that's when I have like hunts and side quests and side missions and stuff, and I'm like, this is stupid.
It only took me 20 hours to get to Cocoon. It was between 10 or 20 hours. Something like that. I remember telling people a specific number. They're like, why would I play a game for 20 hours just for it to get good? But even then, when it opens up, because you're going through hallways over and over again, like, it doesn't get good. It just gets it gets a little bit better. But it doesn't, like, make the games, like, necessarily better.
It never gets good.
Yeah, like, the whole first disc is terrible. You have to wait till you get to the second disc on 360 for it to get good.
I don't know about... I have the PS3 version, so I
yeah,
don't know about discs.
Yeah.
I really took my time with this game. I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be great. I wanted it to get good, get better. And then I kept waiting on side quests. I kept waiting on mini games, and I'm like, there's nothing here.
Mm-hmm.
It was the prettiest game I'd ever played in my life at that point, but there was no soul. It had no substance to it. It was the first Final Fantasy game that I played where I was disappointed from front to back.
Yep.
With 8 has its high points.
All right.
13's only fun aspect is the combat, and the combat's only part of it.
Yeah.
I felt like that was the game that I was least in combat. The rest of that game was dialogue and running up and down halls.
Like, what I felt about that game was that they were more concerned with the lore and backstory, and they weren't able to pull it out and, like, make a cohesive narrative out of the lore. Like, they were so concerned, ooh, there's Cocoon, and there's this people and that people. Like, I can't even remember their names, and you're like, what is this? Who are these people? Why does this matter? You're just telling me. Like, they're throwing information at you with no context. And they're like, ooh, this person's feeling an emotion. You're like, why? And, like, I didn't like most of the characters in 13. That was another problem. Where you're like, why do I care about, you know, let me look their names up, because I have it right here.
It's Hope,
terrible.
Saz, Fang, Vanille, Lightning.
Oh, do you remember that? Go ahead.
So much. I played so much of this freaking game. I did it to completion. I almost 100% complete this game because I wanted it to be good.
And I'm not going to lie to you, the only people I liked in this game were Lightning and Sarah. That's it. I didn't like any other character in this game.
And Sarah has about 4 hours of total FaceTime with dialogue.
Yep. And there's another reason why I like Sarah, but we'll get there.
Did that strawberry blonde hair?
No. Well, at the time that I was playing Final Fantasy 13 and the subsequent sequels of 13, I was single. So I would tell people that Lightning was my girlfriend, not Sarah Lightning. So that was my justification. And I heard, well, we're not getting there yet, but I heard the sequels to 13 specifically were better. But I played 13 because I was like, Nick, I'm going to play it. I'm going to like it. I want to play an RPG. At the time, Xbox and PlayStation were very light on RPGs. And, like, that was one of the only ones available, really, at the time. Like, maybe Dragon Quest or something, but I didn't play one. But on the 360 and PS3, there was, like, nothing. There weren't a lot of RPGs, if I remember correctly.
And in the late 2000s, I'd say from 07 to maybe like even 2011, Western RPGs dominated the market.
Yeah.
Japan was in a slump. We weren't getting the good RPGs that Japan was getting.
Yeah.
And the ones we were getting were cliched junk like 13.
Yeah.
The reason that 13 actually got sequels was a bit of a misnomer because so many people bought 13 thinking that it was going to be good. The sales figures were good. So, Square Enix is like, well, this game sold a whole bunch of copies. Let's make a sequel. And so they actually did make a better sequel.
Much better sequel.
13-2 is the better game than 13.
Yes.
The third one is not, though.
I only played the beginning of the third one, and then
It's got a time limit on it. Don't put a time limit on your RPGs.
What?
It's got a time limit.
Wait, could you explain that to me? I didn't...
There's an active in-game clock that is counting down that you have to do things at a certain clip to get good stuff.
Wow. That's really terrible.
Hope is like an older kid now. He's like in his 20s, and he's sitting at like this big computer terminal thing in like after the Cataclysm heavenly computer system, and he's sending Lightning on missions. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb. I have it. I played a lot of it.
Okay, so I have a question. I guess we're putting all the 13s together. What made you jump from Final Fantasy 13 to 2? Like, what made you want to play the sequel?
Because in the magazines it said the combat was the same, but there's going to be a better story.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded more of that combat. I did get more of that combat, but the thing I didn't like was the interchangeable Pokemon aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They capturing the monsters and stuff and having them fight for you. I didn't like that. I thought that a third character would have worked better than that.
Yeah.
You don't like Dragon Quest V?
I do like Dragon Quest V. I just whenever they're trying to tell this Lassie, Pulse Lassie, and Falsey story, I think we needed a more omnipotent character to help us along with that narrative.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it seemed like they're trying to make kind of like a female Cloud, kind of.
Yeah, she was sold as a sex symbol. She was on the covers of magazines. Like,
she sold perfume and cars, and yeah. So yeah, it was just what a. Yeah,
it was a bummer.
And as good
it was the first time in the series where I was like, not clowning a side game, where I was like, this is a bummer.
Yeah,
and that's to me is the turning point of Square Enix being more cash grabby than the Square Enix of old.
Yeah, because by this time we had the Dirge of Cerebus. And that game was kind of disappointing too.
I have all that.
Yeah.
I wanted to play it because I like Vincent, but I never did.
It's dumb. It's a third-person shooter.
It's not great. It's not. Yeah.
You want to borrow it?
Great.
I have it.
I do not.
I could go get my box of Final Fantasy junk. We don't have to talk about 14.
Good.
I never played it.
None of us
I
ever
own
played
it. I don't have a subscription for it, though, but I have it.
After 12, I didn't want to play another Final Fantasy unless I heard good things. I saw a trailer for 13X or whatever, or Cross 13 or whatever it was.
Yes.
Which we'll get to that later. That was the only Final Fantasy I was excited about after, and honestly.
Okay, well, I can give a little bit of detail on 14. 14 came out for PC only at first, and it was horrible. It was a buggy and terrible, awful mess. Characters and players were complaining about, like, it really did nothing new. So, like, subscriptions were really low, sales were really bad. So Square Enix actually rebranded it a few years later, and that's why you have Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they actually wrote into the lore of this like great cataclysm that ruined the world, and everything is new. So that's why you see 14 way back on the shelves with nothing else connected to it, and then you have Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, which is the vanilla version of the updated 14.
Yeah.
And they've had like 5 expansions, I think 5 or 6. They usually do like one a year, and they're very well received. I ain't touching them.
No. Yeah, that's all I knew about it was that they did the reboot and that one's better. I heard that when they did that, it changed for the better.
Can't wait till
I heard the same thing.
I didn't hear what either one of you said.
I didn't hear him.
David?
What you can't wait for, David?
So I can't wait till 17 when they another MMO.
Oh, goodness. All right, I guess we can move on from this. Oh, go ahead.
I have a theory. We could touch on my theory after 15.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
15 was ambitious. 15 was problematic, but ambitious. Due to the quote-unquote success of 13, Square Enix thought that Final Fantasy needed to be a multimedia experience and not just a video game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have the Steelbook.
I'm jealous.
I can't believe I got the day 1 edition of Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez, I didn't know I pre-ordered it.
Final Fantasy 15 actually wasn't initially developed as Final Fantasy 15. It was going to be another spin-off game of 13. It was in early development as Final Fantasy Versus 13.
Yes, I remember that. I remember because it took forever for 15 to come out, but there was that big reveal whenever it was
Versus
called.
13 was announced like not long after 13 itself. It was a long, like almost 8 years.
Yeah, well, it took like 13 was like, I don't know, 8-9 years in development, and 15 was about the same amount.
Yeah,
crazy.
Or 10 years or something.
That is ridiculous that they couldn't use the same assets and just. I mean,
But
they did, but
the-
it was 13-2 and then 13-3, and we didn't
Yeah,
get another mainline
So
number
they
game.
they update. It was an updated version of the Luminous engine or something.
Yeah.
But the problem that 15 had is Square Enix had zero focus on making 15 a good game.
Yeah.
Square Enix was more focused at getting out the movie, the anime, the side game, before they worried about people actually liking 15.
Yeah.
They wanted to build up all this lore before the game even hit the stores. And what it led to was like when people started up the game, they're like, well, who are these characters? Most of these guys aren't even named.
Yeah.
And 15, 20, 30 minutes into the game when they start actually talking. But I will say the beginning of Final Fantasy 15 when they're all pushing the car and the Stand By Me cover is playing.
That was cool.
I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's such a good moment.
That is a good moment.
That game is a game filled with good moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a half-hearted attempt at a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. And like,
there's just nothing to do.
And like, I thought driving around would be more fun, and it wasn't. Like, driving in the car wasn't like satisfying like it is in
I didn't even
Borderlands,
care to
you know.
unlock other Final Fantasy albums. I just wanted to get where I was going. I didn't want to sit there and listen to music.
The first thing I did was unlock the Final Fantasy 6 and Final Fantasy 9 soundtracks.
That's
I did-
awesome.
It's 7
And-
and 6, yeah.
Play them in the background.
Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah. And then it was actually my first platinum trophy.
Oh, okay.
For 2 weeks straight, I played nothing but that game. I wanted to like it. I did like it.
Me too.
It's just, how can one of the largest open world maps in video game history be so damn linear?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and like, and there were literally places that were either empty if you got there early or completely blocked off. David, hello.
Right.
Because
Game's
twist from a mile away, and the game's over. And that was strategic on Square Enix's part because all of this DLC that they had planned, we bought a season pass
Yeah.
that actually wasn't even all the DLC.
Nope.
That's crazy. Yeah, because they didn't finish it.
They didn't finish it. They
Yeah.
actually came out with a Royal Edition,
Yeah.
which included a season pass and also had its own season pass.
Wow.
So the Royal Edition season pass will not be finished.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. So there was people out there that spent $200, $300 on this game alone. They're not going to get the completion of it.
That's
Nope.
crazy.
I beat that game. I think it took me 30 hours to beat the storyline because I just played the storyline. And I was level 42 when I beat that game.
Yeah.
I was extremely disappointed in that.
It's fun to fight, especially when you get in a high level fight with a pretty smart AI. There's some really awesome boss fights. If you want to platinum that game, there are some awesome boss fights. There's the giant tortoise, the adamantwise. You can cheese that and win it in like 4 minutes. But being a purist, I did it heads up, and it took me 4 hours to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like level 30 something.
That sounds fun.
I didn't.
It was actually pretty awesome, you know.
I stopped playing 15 for two reasons. Number one, I got stuck. There's a part where you lose your car, and I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's halfway through the game, and you're just on a chocobo, which I was like, this is great. What a great departure. And then they blocked you off from going places on the chocobo or something. And I was like, what was the point of this? Like, why would you do this? It would have been awesome to get, like, you'd put a little radio on Chocobo's neck and ride around listening to Final Fantasy music. That would have been great.
You didn't buy the iPod?
I don't think so. I didn't know that existed.
There's an iPod in the game.
Oh.
Yeah, you down and hear the music.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then I quit that. I got my car back or whatever happened. And I just was like, and I went to a cave too early because I was just exploring and it was completely empty. And then I had a mission to go there and then it wasn't empty. And I was like, what? And it was so confusing. and then I stopped playing it, and now my file is corrupted on my PlayStation for that game. My save file is corrupted, so if I wanted to play it, I have to start from the beginning again.
You don't cloud save?
I can. I'll show you one day whenever we're streaming. I'll just like put the camera on the TV or something, or like just take a picture of it. But like all it says is like I think it was updating, and I turned off my PlayStation because something happened and my 15 is corrupted, and I tried playing it again, and it was like corrupted data. But yeah, I cloud save. That's how I save it. But or maybe I don't. I don't know.
I think it's worth playing.
Yeah.
It's a fun game, yeah.
It really is, but it's not. Man, it is not Final Fantasy, and it hurts to say that because like it was another one that was super hyped, and then I watched the movie before the game came out, and I was like, okay, they're talking about I can't understand again. Here we go. But no, the story is pretty basic. Character motivations are kind of laid bare. Combat's fun. It's literally one of the biggest open worlds with nothing to do in it. And you don't just naturally stumble upon stuff. Wow, David.
David, what did you do?
I dropped the thing on my trash can, and I'm just going to stop now.
Okay. Instead of like things in the environment naturally happening, then you'd be like, oh, that's cool. All that happens in this is like enemy troops constantly harrowing you. Like,
yeah, that was...
you could be going, oh, look, there's the Imperial ships, and they come down and you fight them.
Yeah.
That's the most random thing that happens.
I think
and it's designed to happen.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to do battles that aren't like quick to like, random, you can't see battles. I think that's a more interesting way to do it. It's just there's no like urgency to that. Like you're not like, oh no, like I'm running away from the capital and they're chasing me. You're like, oh, they're here again. Uh-oh.
You can run.
Yeah.
I don't want to fight these guys for the 1,000th time.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, they're not giving you anything new. They're not giving you any. I don't even like the loot system.
Nope.
You bring it to a shop and they make something cool, and you bring it to another shop and they make something cool, and you bring it to Sydney and she makes cool things for your car. But nothing is changing on your character. Nothing is. You're not making cooler weapons yet. You're not making cooler this yet. It's just there.
I don't think and this is going to be weird. I don't know if we've talked about this with any game. I don't even think I like the design of it. Like the art assets they use and like the character models. Like it just kind of seemed like every Final Fantasy had its own sort of kind of originality with the art thing. And this one just seemed like kind of bland or I didn't like for me, it's always the chocobos. The design of the chocobos are usually like, oh yeah, like, in 7 and 9 and 10. And the chocobos in this, I hated their design. I hated it. And in the world, I wasn't like Red Dead, where I'm in the world and I'm like, or Elder Scroll games, I'm like, this world's great. Other than the fact that it's empty, it's not an engaging, beautiful world, even though it's on a console now. You know what I mean? It's
super high fidelity.
Yes.
But the fantasy part of it is like when you're in a circle and you're fighting stuff, like the enemies are kind of high fantasy.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff that's high fantasy is like some of the crystal formations out in the distance.
Yes.
But it takes you 30 minutes to get there.
Yes.
To explore and check this thing out.
Yes, I forgot about the crystal. That was one of my favorite things was the crystal thing. But everything getting there is like bland and like
it's super flat.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Man, and now that we're bringing it up, does Final Fantasy need to have an overworld again? Like, do they need to bring back the overworld where we can see the map, travel on that map, and then go back into it? You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to innovate Final Fantasy, but it's actually hurting them. Specifically and especially with 15, but also in 13 as well, where they're trying to keep things on a ground level, and it's not really working.
I told you probably whenever this game was about to come out, I think we had the conversation, like, if this game fails, it could be the last numbered Final Fantasy game we see.
Yeah.
And it took it a while, but this game has failed.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that we get a 16 or we get a 7 remake.
You don't
I
think
think
7 remake's
I
gonna
think
happen?
I think they force out the 7 remake because remember 3 years ago when they were talking about episodic content?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And it was
ridiculous.
and it was to get it fast. It was to get it to us faster.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be out to us faster.
No.
All we needed was 7 with a coat of paint on it.
That's all we need.
Whenever fans heard that it's like it's not a turn-based game,
Right.
we haven't seen anything else on it.
Well, because like they showed demos and all it was you swapped out the main character in 15 with Cloud, and he's doing all
Kingdom
the
Hearts.
main characters. Yeah, or Kingdom Hearts. And
It's not what we want, and I'm hoping that Square finally sees that this is not what people want.
No. It's not.
That Kingdom Hearts fans want that, and Kingdom Hearts doesn't sell as good as Final Fantasy though.
nope.
So
there's a lot of love
people
for Kingdom Hearts, and there's a big fan base, but it's not as big as Final
there's a lot of
Fantasy.
crossover there too.
Yes, that's true.
Gesundheit.
Thank you.
So it's got me really worried that this franchise that I've spent so much of my youth and adulthood playing is on the brink of extinction because of poor management skills by this publisher, by this developing house that are trying to fix something that they broke.
Yep.
So it's really got me worried that we may never see 16 or 7. Or if we see 7, it'll be Final Fantasy 7 Duske or something. It'll be an NT game. It'll be something that we don't want. It won't be the thing that they said they were giving us, is what my point is. Supposed to get remake. E3 trailer said remake.
Yes.
What it should have said was remaster, and I wouldn't be so freaking worried about it.
Well, like, the one thing that I wish people would learn from is the Resident Evil 2 remake, which was amazing. And you make incremental changes. You don't change it completely. You don't turn into another game. You just take the systems that are there and you just make them bigger. Because even if it had different voice acting and different whatever, if they just made it a little bit more like 10, maybe I would be more okay with. You know, something like that. Not to where it's like
It doesn't even
15.
have voice acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I played a game this year that gave me hope that Square Enix had their head screwed on right. A game that actually wasn't received well critically. The Secret of Mana remake.
Oh.
It, for all intents and purposes, a perfect remake of the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
It just has a chibi, polished art style. No sprite art, it's all polygons.
Oh.
I beat that game, and I had a blast. It was so good. And a lot of people are calling it a 7 or a 6 out of 10.
Wow.
But most people will say that Secret of Mana on Super Nintendo is one of the greatest games of all time. But it's basically the same game, just with a new coat of paint on it.
That's great.
I loved it. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. I beat it in a week and a half. Give me more of that. It gave me hope because Square Enix actually developed and published that. Give me more of that.
Do like Resident Evil did and just make the world more immersive. You know, make it to where it's not like on the PlayStation 2 they had or 1 they had to make those pre-generated backgrounds that don't move or kind of move, but they're, make the world more livable, more interesting. You can just keep the story the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know if we'll even get it.
Yeah.
Because that was a long time ago when they showed that off.
Yeah.
And some people are saying that it ain't even at E3 this year.
Oh, it's definitely. We may not see it for another 3 years or 4 years.
It's a PlayStation exclusive. Sony ain't at E3.
Oh, I don't think they should show anything this year.
It's really disheartening as a fan of the
is.
series.
Everything that's happened from 13 kind of forward has been like very disappointing.
I told you this. I told you that I think the night of that E3, whenever it said directed by Tetsuya Nomura, I said this game is doomed.
Yeah.
Tetsuya Nomura does not know how to make a good game.
What other games has he made?
Kingdom Hearts.
Mm.
His experience with Final Fantasy is character design. He's the reason that we have all the zippers and belts.
Oh no.
He also, I've only
He
played through about
directed.
half of
He
Kingdom
directed
Hearts,
Advent Children.
Oh, I didn't know that.
halfway through Kingdom Hearts 3, and I haven't seen a single Final Fantasy character in it.
They took it out.
It's
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. They wanted it more Disney focused.
Oh, there's 0 Final Fantasy characters.
Zero.
No Final Fantasy.
0.
Or enemies.
Yep.
Well, I guess if you don't like any of the new Final Fantasies, why would you put them in there? If the fans are
Yeah,
like,
it'd
we
be-
hate this game, like, why would you?
It would be stupid going to Twilight Town and talking to Noctis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did
Hey,
like
Lightning.
that
Oh.
Dream Drop Distance had Neku in it. That way they have at least other games in the greater Square Enix verse in there.
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, let's get to some final thoughts because we're running real long.
fantasy thoughts.
Yeah, fantasy thoughts.
Well, y'all go first. I'll end on a somber note.
Since this is yours, basically, I'll let David go first.
Oh, for the listeners, if the listeners don't know, I own like every North American release of Final Fantasy games, side and mainline games. I have like 70 Final Fantasy games in my living room. This is my series. It's ridiculous. So whenever I talk about this, it's coming from a place of love. I might on this franchise, but I also love this franchise. So I also feel like I'm qualified to speak on it.
Okay, David, you go first.
I was gonna say 1 through 10 are great, but I don't like 2. So no, 8's not my favorite. Yeah, I'm not overly optimistic about the future at all. I hope the 7 remake's good. I hope they do it, but at this point, I'm kind of done with Final Fantasy. Unfortunately, I'll go back and play the old ones over and over again. Though they're that good.
Oh yeah,
I have 9 on my Switch right now.
that you overpaid for.
Final Fantasy is actually, and I'm kind of promoting our next episode, is kind of like the Star Wars series. Where they were good, and unlike Star Wars, though, they were actually good when they came back and tried. Like, 10 wasn't terrible. Whenever 10 came out, there was a lot of controversy around it. Not everyone liked it. A lot of people just wanted it back to the old Final Fantasy, but it grew, and it was a lot of people's first Final Fantasy. So 10 is now considered one of the best Final Fantasy games ever, but I think that ended up working out, unlike Star Wars. But since then, it's just taking anywhere longer than 6 years to make a game that's not okay, especially nowadays, or especially at the time, with one, it took you less time to make a game, but anything that takes longer than 5 to 6 years is crazy. They made God of War in 5 years. They made an excellent, fantastic, yes, it's not as big, it's not as open world, but maybe they don't do crunch or whatever, but it just shows that they're incompetent and there is something wrong with the management there, that they're not making the fans happy over and over again. Mm-hmm. And they're losing all the goodwill. And unlike Marvel, where there's or even DC or whatever, where there's superhero fatigue, it's because you're getting too much of something. And it's like, it's okay. If Final Fantasy would have stayed consistent and just been great, we would be so hyped for the next game. Just like Rockstar, how every game, even though Nick didn't like Red Dead, the quality's there, and they add something new and interesting and keep you engaged in those games. And kind of Elder Scrolls, because if you look at just the Elder Scroll games, not the Bethesda games, if you look at just the Elder Scroll games, they have been great. The last 2 were great. Not the Fallout games, but the Elder Scroll ones. So they really would have to redeem themselves with a next game that isn't 7. You know what I mean? They should scrap 7. I think they should scrap 7. They should scrap everything they're doing on Kingdom Hearts. They should not do another Kingdom Hearts. And they should just focus on Final Fantasy, and that's it. Nothing else. And put all their energy, creative energy, bring some new people in that have fresh ideas. that can make something interesting and have a narrative that makes sense and characters that we like. And like a good video game, and and I'd be on board. But like David said, I'm not looking forward to what's coming out next.
Yeah, all good points. I think that Square Enix is a production house that got too big for their britches, too fast. They started gobbling up a bunch of small developing firms, and it really spread them thin. But the main developing issue that I have with Square Enix is they stopped making JRPGs.
Yeah.
They really started shifting their design philosophy to a Western audience, which only alienated the Western audience that was going after this JRPG experience. And they started going get it elsewhere on the 3DS. Like Mistwalker Studios were putting out JRPGs. They put out Lost Odyssey and Infinite Undiscovery and The Last Remnant. These were JRPGs, turn-based, stupid, save-the-world stories that Square Enix themselves only were telling with Dragon Quest games, where Final Fantasy is their bread and butter. You know, if they just get back to making JRPGs with a Final Fantasy name on it, which I haven't played one except for World of Final Fantasy, and that game's not that good. If you exclude the side stuff, Square Enix hasn't made a JRPG since Final Fantasy X.
Wow. Even 12 you don't consider a JRPG?
No, 12 is a single-player MMO.
Wow.
They need to hit a reset button. I would actually prefer a game come out in 2022 or 2020 called Final Fantasy. Reboot it. And let's just start from scratch. Let's forget all the l'Cie. Let's forget all the paradigms and all these other things that they were doing. And let's just make a cool 3D turn-based RPG. Call it Final Fantasy, and we'll see where it takes us. That's what I want. It won't happen. I think Final Fantasy is a dead franchise. If 7 comes out, I'll be shocked.
Yep.
But I'm worried.
Whew.
And that sucks coming from me, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and I'm hoping that we did speak to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I look at Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider is the perfect example. A dead series. There was a couple of bright spots that came out. Tomb Raider Underworld, I think, was a good game. And like Tomb Raider Anniversary and Legend, but like that franchise was dead. And put a rebrand stamp on it. And we get this fantastic game.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. God of War did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Resident Evil did it.
Resident Evil did it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make JRPGs great again.
Yep. and I'm not even talking about Resident Evil 2. Even Resident Evil 7 was a reset to everything that they'd been doing up until that point.
Right. I didn't see a rocket launcher 1 fly through a window in Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
Nobody punched a boulder. So, yeah, that's just little old me. Big old Final Fantasy super nerd complaining about something I love. Oh, and Final Fantasy IV's story is basically a Star Wars ripoff.
Great. Just add that in there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, better luck next year. Whatever. See y'all in whatever.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I need a refill on my drink.
David, where's yours?
Huh?
Where's your we're ending this. Where's your ending
I
quote?
drank it all. It's glorious.
No, you're too drunk. David, we're ending it. What's your ending quote?
He drank the outro.
I left you yesterday.
It's yesterday?
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
David drinks the outro.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good ending.